The year is 1914. Europe stands at a precipice, teetering on the edge of a conflict that will reshape the world. The continent is a powder keg, with alliances and rivalries creating a complex web of tension. Imagine a world on the brink of momentous change. The streets are filled with anxious crowds, people whispering about the possibility of war. Newspapers are filled with headlines predicting doom, and the atmosphere is thick with uncertainty. The air crackles with tension. Every conversation, every glance is charged with the fear of the unknown. The great powers of Europe are like chess players, each move calculated, each decision fraught with peril. Great powers stand poised, their armies massed along borders, soldiers march in parades, their faces a mix of determination and dread. The machinery of war is set in motion and there is no turning back. This is the eve of the First World War, a conflict so vast, so devastating it will scar the 20th century. Declarations of war ripple across the continent, and nations mobilize their troops for a battle that will span years. The Great War, as it was known, engulfed Europe and spread to other continents. It was a global conflict, drawing in countries from every corner of the world, each contributing to the immense scale of the war. Millions of soldiers would march off to battle, many never to return. Families bid tearful farewells, uncertain if they would ever see their loved ones again. The human cost of the war was staggering, from the muddy trenches of the Western Front to the scorching sands of the Middle East. A new kind of war was being fought. Trench warfare, with its brutal conditions and high casualties, became a grim symbol of the conflict. This was a war of unprecedented carnage. The scale of the destruction was unlike anything the world had ever seen. Entire cities were reduced to rubble, and the landscape was scarred by the relentless fighting. New technologies, like machine guns and poison gas, made killing more efficient and impersonal. The horrors of modern warfare were unleashed, and the battlefield became a place of unimaginable suffering. Entire landscapes were transformed into desolate battlefields. The once fertile fields of Europe became barren wastelands, and the scars of war were etched into the earth itself. The world watched in horror as the fighting raged on for 4 long years. Civilians far from the front lines felt the impact of the war in their daily lives as resources dwindled and the death toll mounted. The Great War would leave an indelible mark on human history, its legacy shaping the world we live in today. The aftermath of the war saw the rise of new nations, the fall of empires, and a world forever changed by the horrors of conflict. To understand this global conflict, we must first delve into the complex web of factors that led to its outbreak. Europe in the early 20th century was a cauldron of competing ambitions, simmering tensions, and deep-seated mistrust. Nationalism, a powerful force, was on the rise. People felt a strong sense of loyalty and pride in their own nations. This often led to rivalry and suspicion between countries. Imperialism, the race for colonies, further fueled the flames. European powers competed for territories in Africa and Asia, creating friction and resentment. Meanwhile, a complex web of alliances entangled the great powers. These agreements, meant to deter aggression, ironically drew nations into the conflict. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, and his wife Sophie, in Sarajevo on June 28, 1914, provided the spark that ignited the powder keg. Austria-Hungary, blaming Serbia for the assassination, issued a harsh ultimatum. When Serbia failed to meet all the demands, Austria-Hungary declared war on July 28, 1914. The alliance system swung into action with terrifying speed. Russia mobilized in support of Serbia. Germany, allied with Austria-Hungary, declared war on Russia and then on France, Russia's ally. Germany's invasion of neutral Belgium brought Great Britain into the war on the side of France and Russia. Within a matter of weeks, the major powers of Europe were at war. The Western Front, stretching for hundreds of miles across northeastern France and Belgium, became the main theatre of war. It was a brutal, unforgiving landscape dominated by trench warfare. Soldiers on both sides dug in, creating elaborate systems of trenches, underground bunkers, and barbed wire entanglements. Life in the trenches was a nightmare. Mud, disease, and the constant threat of enemy fire. Attacks were often launched across no man's land, a desolate strip of land between the trenches. These assaults, met by withering machine gun fire and artillery barrages, resulted in appalling casualties. Section 5. Verdun and the Somme battles of attrition. The Battle of Verdun, which began in February 1916, became a symbol of the war's brutality. It was one of the longest and most devastating battles in World War I, lasting for nearly 10 months. The French and German armies were locked in a grueling struggle, with neither side willing to concede. German forces, hoping to bleed France white, launched a massive offensive against the fortress city. Their strategy was to inflict maximum casualties and break the French spirit. The initial bombardment was one of the heaviest of the war, signaling the start of a relentless assault. The French, determined to hold Verdun at all costs, poured reinforcements into the battle. General Philippe Pétain became a national hero for his leadership during the defense. The phrase, "They shall not pass," became a rallying cry for the French troops. Both sides suffered horrendous losses in the fighting, which raged for months. The landscape was transformed into a hellish wasteland, with countless lives lost and little ground gained. Verdun became a symbol of the futility and horror of trench warfare. The Battle of the Somme, launched by the British and French in July 1916, was intended to relieve pressure on Verdun and achieve a decisive breakthrough. It was one of the largest battles of the war, involving over 3 million men along a 15-mile front. However, the German defences proved formidable. The Germans had constructed deep bunkers and extensive trench systems, making it extremely difficult for the Allied forces to advance. The initial artillery bombardment failed to destroy these defences, leading to a prolonged and bloody struggle. On the first day of the battle alone, the British Army suffered nearly 60,000 casualties, the bloodiest day in its history. The scale of the losses shocked the British public and highlighted the brutal nature of the conflict. The Somme offensive dragged on for months, achieving limited gains at a terrible cost in human life. The battle epitomized the grinding, attritional warfare that came to define World War I, with both sides enduring unimaginable suffering for minimal territorial gain. Section 6. Machines of War Technological Advancements. World War I witnessed the debut of new and terrifying weapons of war. The machine gun, capable of firing hundreds of rounds per minute, transformed the battlefield. Artillery, more powerful and accurate than ever before, rained down death and destruction on the enemy. Poison gas, first used by the Germans in 1915, added a new dimension of horror to the fighting. Tanks, lumbering behemoths designed to break the stalemate of trench warfare, made their first appearance in 1916, and in the skies above the trenches, a new form of combat emerged: aerial warfare. Section 7. Life on the home front, a world transformed. The war's impact was felt far beyond the battlefields. On the home fronts, life underwent a profound transformation. With millions of men away fighting, women took on new roles. They worked in factories, producing munitions and other war materials. They served as nurses, caring for the wounded. Governments, facing insatiable demands for manpower and resources, imposed rationing and censorship. Propaganda, designed to bolster morale and demonize the enemy, became pervasive. The war touched every aspect of life, leaving an enduring legacy on societies around the world. Section 8. The war ends, a new world order. By 1918, after more than 4 years of devastating warfare, the tide began to turn. The entry of the United States into the war in April 1917, with its vast industrial might and fresh troops, provided a crucial boost to the Allied war effort. Germany, facing exhaustion and dwindling resources, launched a last-ditch offensive in the spring of 1918. The offensive failed, and German morale finally collapsed. On November 11, 1918, Germany signed the armistice, bringing an end to the fighting. The war was over, but the world would never be the same. Section 9. The Legacy of the Great War. The First World War left an indelible mark on the 20th century. It was a conflict that reshaped nations, altered political landscapes, and changed the course of history forever. The war's impact was felt not only on the battlefields, but also in the hearts and minds of those who lived through it. The Treaty of Versailles, signed in 1919, officially ended the war, but sowed the seeds for future conflicts. The treaty's harsh terms created a sense of humiliation and resentment in Germany, which would later contribute to the rise of extremism and the outbreak of World War II. The treaty imposed harsh penalties on Germany, including territorial losses, disarmament, and crippling reparations payments. These measures devastated the German economy and led to widespread suffering and political instability. The war also led to the collapse of empires and the redrawing of the map of Europe. The Austro-Hungarian, Ottoman, and Russian empires all crumbled, replaced by new nations and shifting borders. This redrawing of the map created new tensions and conflicts that would simmer for decades. The Austro-Hungarian, Ottoman, and Russian empires all crumbled, replaced by new nations. The collapse of these empires led to the emergence of new states, each with its own set of challenges and aspirations. The power vacuum left by these fallen empires created opportunities for new political movements and ideologies to take root. The war's staggering cost in human life, an estimated 8.5 million soldiers and millions of civilians dead, left an enduring scar on the world's psyche. The loss of an entire generation of young men had profound social and cultural impacts, leading to a sense of disillusionment and a questioning of traditional values. The Great War, a conflict of unprecedented scale and ferocity, stands as a stark reminder of the human cost of conflict and the fragility of peace. The war's legacy is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the enduring desire for peace and reconciliation. Its legacy continues to shape our world today, a century after the guns fell silent. The lessons learned from the Great War continue to inform our understanding of conflict, diplomacy, and the importance of striving for a more peaceful world.